What's up, Packer fans? Welcome into the Pack a Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. You can follow the podcast at Pack a Day Podcast. Thanks so much for joining me today. Today, I figured I would take a look at 5 players who I want to buy stock in this upcoming season. And what I mean by that is, if you think of it when you're buying stock or crypto or whatever the heck it is that you're investing in, football cards, who knows, whatever it is you're investing in, you want to, try to look at the potential value down the road, and you're hoping that the value of whatever it is you're purchasing is obviously going to go up over time and not down, and that you can sell it higher than what you bought it for. I'm not breaking any news here. You guys all know this. Probably didn't need to explain it, but I figured I would do that today with 5 Packers who I think if you were able to buy stock in them now, that by the end of this upcoming season, the stock on these players would be even higher than it will be today. So these are the 5 that I'm going to go with, and I'm going to start at number 1. And number 1 on my list here, and they're not in any particular order, but is the only one on this list that actually has a change in depth chart, from a season ago. And that's AJ Dillon. And of course, Jamal Williams is gone, which easily pushes AJ Dillon from number 3 and really kind of an afterthought in most game plans, right, to the number 2 running back position and having a legitimate role game in and game out, unlike he did a season ago. He was lucky in certain games just to even touch the ball. So I think this is a much bigger opportunity this upcoming season for AJ Dillon. And whenever we got a chance to get a glimpse of AJ Dillon a season ago, he was really, really good. So, and against the Titans, of course, he was fantastic. So this is a player whose role is increasing, who has now basically, I don't want to say like a redshirt season, but like all the wear and tear that you normally get as a running back, and all the kind of wear and tear that he had on his legs from Boston College, because he was seeing a bunch of 8-9-man boxes and they kind of, gave him the ball a ton. Like now he has fresh legs, didn't play a ton a season ago. I think he's going to be ready to go. And, we also know that whether it's been Mike McCarthy or whether it's been Matt LaFleur, this is not a team that has wanted to give Aaron Jones 25, 28 touches per game, right? So they limit the amount of touches. And last year, I think it was every second quarter, by the end, like middle to end of second quarter, everyone on Twitter was, is everything all right with Aaron Jones? What's going on with Aaron Jones? Second quarter is basically when the Packers rested Jones. They gave him the first quarter, get things going. They gave him basically the second half. But the second quarter, a lot of times, was Jamal Williams' quarter a season ago. I would expect something similar with AJ Dillon this upcoming season. And I think that once he gets his opportunity, I think he can be a really, really good running back in this league. So I know AJ Dillon, if you read the article as well from Ty Dunn, is betting on himself. He's buying his own football cards and trying to add value over time. It's a kind of a cool way that he can invest in himself. But if you want to invest in AJ Dillon, maybe you can do the same, pick up some sweet AJ Dillon football cards. But that is definitely a player that I think will have more value after this upcoming season than he even does right now. Next up on my list, and this one may be a little bit of a surprise, but is Robert Tonyan. And I think when people talk sometimes about Tonyan from a season ago, you hear them talk about, well, it was a lot of schemed open stuff and it was a product of the system. And when teams are focused on Aaron Jones and Devontae Adams and, all these other weapons, a Robert Tonyan's going to sneak open from time to time. I just don't see it that way. And frankly, I think there's still room to grow for Tonyan, which is, I think, the most exciting part. I think he can still become a better tight end even than he was a season ago. And I think so few players get a season like that in the NFL where they just have a true breakout moment and now they have the confidence. And with Tonyan, I'm really excited to see. Now he knows he can play in this league and he knows he can play at a high level. Now can you repeat it and can you even get better? I think he can, and I think he will. Remember, he's only 27 years old, and also remember that he's in a contract year right now. So the better he performs this season, the better that contract is likely going to be. So I think this is a really big season for Robert Tonyan. But when I went back and I kind of watched the tape a season ago, it's funny because there were multiple plays where he worked himself open on his own and he just didn't see the ball. Like I can remember 2 or 3 plays where he ran great routes, got separation, got open deep, and Rodgers just wasn't looking his way. And then it would be like the flukiest plays where the ball came his way or he was wide open and it was more scheme stuff. So there was some of that where he was schemed open and things like that. But there was enough of the other stuff where he did work himself open that I think there's still opportunity for growth there. And again, 27 contract year. I think that also look at it this way. I still am kind of expecting Aaron Rodgers to eventually be the quarterback, but if it's Jordan Love, man, younger, inexperienced quarterbacks love using their tight ends in the middle of the field as more of like that check down. I have faith in the bigger body guy over the middle. So Tonyan could even see a little bit of a jump if it is in fact Jordan Love as well. So I like where Tonyan's at, and I think he has the opportunity to improve. And again, another player I would buy stock in this upcoming season. Number 3, this might be a little bit premature, and I know a lot of people are high on him already, so there's definitely some risk here. But Amari Rodgers is a player that I get. There's a lot of bodies at that wide receiver position, right? And we don't know how that's going to stack up, and we don't know how they're going to rotate those receivers in. And it's quite possible that Amari Rodgers is lower on the pecking order, especially if it's Aaron Rodgers, and we know he likes to have trust and faith in his wide receivers before they get a ton of snaps. But let's be real. There's just not another receiver on the roster like Amari Rodgers, and he brings a different element to that team. I think he's going to have a real chance to be the kick returner, the punt returner, and I just don't see Amari Rodgers failing, and I think he's going to be a really good pro for this Packers team, somebody that I know a lot of people, myself included, are really excited about, but I think his skill set fits very well within this offense. I think his skill set fits very well with Aaron Rodgers if he's the quarterback, and being able to have another option in the slot that can do some of the things that Amari Rodgers can do. I think he's going to be dynamic after the catch might be the wrong word, because I don't think we're not talking like somebody's going to juke out somebody 30 times or something, but he is going to be a very good run after the catch receiver because he can do a variety of different things. And I don't see him failing. And I like his odds of being, I don't know that I want to say at this point, like the next great Packers receiver. I think that's very premature, but I think he's going to be a very good receiver. And it may take some time. Maybe it's not just this year, but over time, I think that value is going to continue to go up on Amari Rodgers. The next one might be the most obvious of all players on this list today, and that's Rashan Gary. 23 years old still, was still kind of putting things together, but made a pretty impressive jump from year 1 to year 2, and I expect to see something similar from year 2 to year 3. And as I've talked about in the past, if there's a player on this roster that I think can go from good or really good to great, I think it's Rashan Gary, and I think he has the ability to be a massive presence on the defensive front from a pressure standpoint, from a run stopping standpoint. I think we're going to find out this year just what Rashan Gary is capable of, and if he can kind of put all those pieces together to become that well-rounded overall football player. But I love how he works on his game. The grind is there for him. He's insanely hardworking. He has the respect of his coaches. He is chock full of talent, oozing with potential. Now, can he turn that into, all right, we think this is going to be a guy that could be an impact player. Now, can he turn that into, a ton of pressures, 15 sacks, couple forced fumbles, those sort of things. If that happens, this defense has the opportunity to take a pretty big jump, but I'd be very surprised if Rashan Gary didn't take a jump and his value doesn't go up through the course of this upcoming season. And then last but not least, every time that you are buying stock, you want to have something that, has a little safety to it, right? You maybe not quite as volatile, not as up and down. And to me, that's Jaire Alexander here. 24 years old in February, just turned 24 years old. He is insanely talented, already one of the best corners in all of football, if not the best corner in football. And I still think he's getting better, which is the scary part. He looked really good at mini camps when he was there. And there's nothing that he can't do from a coverage standpoint. He's scrappy. He gets involved in stuff. He can absolutely, shut down corners are whatever. It's tough to be a shutdown corner, period. But he can be somebody that just takes away opposing receivers. He can play left, right, slot. You can ask him to do anything. And even those matchups against the Allen Robinsons and the bigger, more physical wide receivers, he's pesky as heck, and he finds ways to still get in their head and still stay tight on coverage. And yes, he's giving up some insides in some of those matchups, but I will take Jaire Alexander every single time, one-on-one. I don't care who the wide receiver is. I like my odds with Alexander than over just about any other corner in the league. And again, I think he still can get better. I think he can still grow. We haven't seen him have the interceptions, right? I think those are going to come over time if teams actually throw at him. But regardless of what happens, he's an incredibly safe buy because he's not going to get worse, right? He's only going to get better. He's already fantastic. And again, the scary part of all of it is I think there's still room there for him to grow and even be better, which is really, really the scary part, at least for opposing teams, a really fun aspect if you're a Green Bay Packer fan. Those are my 5 guys that I'm buying stock in. If you wanted maybe to look at it in a couple different ways, you could go like a Preston Smith, right? Preston Smith, everyone's really down on, myself included, this offseason from what he put on tape a season ago. But you always want to buy low too. You buy low, you sell high. Well, if you're looking to buy low, Preston Smith's a really good option. He's in a contract year, basically. He has a ton of incentives if he gets a ton of sacks. There's a good chance that he has a much better season this year than he did a season ago. Green Bay needs him to. So that would be like a buy low option. There's also guys like Kylan Hill, KB and Ento, those type of players where those are your penny stocks, right? You're buying them super cheap and you're hoping maybe they turn out over time. Those could be a couple other options, but my main 5 here: AJ Dillon, Bobby Tonyan, Amari Rodgers, Rashan Gary, and Jaire Alexander. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it as always. I'll be right back here tomorrow with a brand new episode, so make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.